morning. I'm Maya Slimaczki, and I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar. We titled it Recognize, Respect, and Restore from Soil Degradation and Desertification to Resilient Land Systems. It is organized in recognition of the World Day to Combat Desertification and Drought. The webinar is being recorded, and it will be shared after the event via project communication channels. So today we bring together experts from 6 Horizon Europe projects working on soil restoration, sustainable land management, agroforestry, nature-based solutions, and community-driven approaches to address land degradation and desertification. Through today's webinar and Cafe Talk, we hope to showcase practical solutions, share lessons learned from diverse regions, and explore how research, innovation, policy, and local communities can work together to build more resilient land systems. So first session, we envisioned it as a webinar. We are giving the floor to our representatives from Project TerRASAFE, MONALISA, LandShift, Nemesis, AfroGrow, and EARTHONE to present their projects, their approaches and solutions related to soil health, restoration, and combating desertification. Following the presentations and the webinar session, we will have a short Q&A session before moving into our Cafe Talk discussion. So we encourage you to ask your questions in the chat section. We will try to answer them all. If that is not possible due to the time constraints, we will prepare the answers for all your questions in the document that we will distribute to all of the participants of this webinar. So to not prolong this introduction anymore, I would like to call on to Michael, if he is here. Michael?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Our first speaker, Michael, is the representative of TerRASAFE project, Michael Lazidas. Michael is chairman of Isotech and a chemical and environmental engineer with extensive expertise in waste management, environmental engineering, and innovative sustainability solutions. So, Michael, the floor is yours. You can share your screen.
Okay. I don't know if you see it on the...
We see it. It's okay. You can proceed. Thank you.
Just 1 minute, please. Okay. Again, I wanted to thank you very much for this chance to gather all the people that are working on this respect and see how we can move forward. Now, actually this community compost hub, as we call it, this scaling soil carbon restoration in drylands, it was a need actually from European Union to Cyprus that we experience a tremendous problem in loss of organic carbon in the soils. Just to say before I start that Isotech is being cooperating with many countries, starting from India to Qatar and almost all the countries in the European Union, and lately Tunisia, Jacob. Okay, so the innovation is not, the TerRASAFE is a 5-year research project investigating innovations from preventing and reversing desertification. I'm just reading now and then I will stop. Collaborative approach supported by scientifically sound and robust tools and guidelines tailored by the local communities to enhance desertification reliance and head to transformative positive impact. Okay, what is the actual issue for my today presentation is the loss of organic soil and the need to find a way to bring back the organic carbon in the soil, but in a massive way. Unfortunately, in most of the countries that have been very expensive systems, over 2 million systems, composting plants are being operating. And this means that at the end of the day, unfortunately, the cost of compost is sky high. And at this moment in Cyprus, nobody is purchasing, even if you have vast quantities. So we tried to see if the farmers per se, they could do that. Unfortunately, based on what you can see on your screen, requires technical know-how, needs expensive equipment, and all those things makes them not produce compost. So at the end of the day, the real challenge is not how is compost done. We know it for thousands of years, how to compost. However, how can we do it on a locally, affordably, and repeatedly? So locally, affordably, and repeatedly is what this proposal that we have in front of us today is all about. So after 30 years of working on composting plants and on compost generally, we saw several issues that we said, okay, let's try and do it. And we already have done part of what we will talk today. So the first thing is that we convince the mayor, the council of the village, and that it's something that is for them. And it's something that they will have the ownership. They will not lose the ownership, and that they will do it by themselves. They will be trained, and at the end, Isotech will leave and allow them to proceed without any extra costs. Now, the first thing that we are doing is go to the area and map the substrates, the stakeholders, and the infrastructure. I will explain the reason for this, but let's stay there. Then, since we know that this amount of prunings, this amount of manure, this kind of greens are around, and they have extra tractors, they have extra machinery that can be used by the system. They can incorporate reverse logistics in many of their activities. They can share people, actually, that they have them, because it's a small scale. They have people that they only work part-time, so they could share them with this system that we are talking about. So we do the system design based on what the people have in the area and who they are. It's a voluntary membership system. We have stakeholder engagement. Then we proceed with the feasibility study. We train them, and we do the optimization. You will see that we are lacking one very important part, which is actually been introduced now in both Tunisia and Cyprus, and it's the demonstration side. So we have a demonstration where the training and all the optimization is being done before we come with a very specific design that the owners, the stakeholders, can actually decide if they will proceed with a permanent system, this permanent system, or not. So we ask from the farmers actually to bring their manure, their green waste, and then based on a very specific system that is being accepted and discussed by the stakeholders, we provide them with either low cost or free compost. So they give and they take back. The same goes for the local authorities, who they have already problems of what to do with the prunings and trimmings, the greens, and generally they burn them. Believe it or not, in Cyprus, in Tunisia, in many southern countries, that we have loss of organic carbon lower than 1%. For all of you who know what means lower than 1%, that it's very near, we go down to 0.2. So it's almost a desert. You understand that bringing back mass quantities of compost is something essential for the survival and the health, of course, of the soil. So it's an open source. What we are trying here is to create an open source. So a hub where all the communities could come, exchange ideas, create clusters, share infrastructure, and so the cost should drop as low as possible. It's not viable for people to spend $500,000 for a windrow turner or a shredder and then use it for 1% of the time that they could use it, instead of sharing it and doing the best within the circular economy that we all know. So local compost production using all community organic substrates, the mixture actually is what we are giving to the people. So in Cyprus, we saw that if you use only prunings, you end up with something that has very low carbon. I will show in the next slide. So we take the prunings, manure, garden waste, public green waste, whatever they have as organic waste, maybe even industries that they have, wineries, they have for the production of wine. Why it works? Because the local actors are involved. They are part of the game. They are giving their machinery. They are giving their time. They are being involved, actively involved. And they have the absolute control because they are actually voted as member of the administration, let's say, of this scheme. So they know what kind of quality they are bringing in, what they take back, and they can actually intervene as far as it concerns the cost. And they have this mutual support. Whatever happens, another one will step in and we will have something that is very operational. And they use, of course, the final compost is theirs. So you understand that the streams are fragmented, and this is a problem until now. The municipality was using a certain path to give it to a centralized company. The farmers were actually the pruning and then burning. The manure was spread unmatured into the different the soils, and we had pollution problems. So the ISOTEC approach is one properly equipped local service covering all community organic substrates. Usually, unfortunately, near the Mediterranean, cooperation is not so favorable like in North. So that's why you see it as an innovation. It's an innovation per se to bring all those people in without quarreling, without any fights, and manage to convene into one entity. Then it's the transport. Until now, we are taking the prunings from villages up to 50, 60, up to 100 kilometers. And so it's close to the community, these plants, up to 5 kilometers usually. Usually the 10 kilometers is a bit huge for Cyprus, but for, let's say, Tunisia, it was all right. The siting, instead of relying only on permanent facilities with difficult permitting, putting cement everywhere, having all those facilities, at this moment we are working on a mobile unit, so you can take it anywhere you want, and also the facility, the permitting for mobile units is completely different than fixed infrastructure. And also the processing and application, its shared infrastructure can serve many communities. So we have a shredder that goes along to those 10 municipalities, and instead of having one each. The same for screener, spreader, turning equipment. It's an autonomous community composting system owned and controlled by the actors. So they feel that they retain the ownership of their substrates. They don't. So if you tell them just sell the manure to me, they will say, "What am I going to do without manure?" Now you bring them back something that it's very vital for them. The compost quality, production cost, use of the final project is again with the local actors. And at the end of the day, Isotech does not own the system, may remain only if needed for training, chemical analysis, quality control, consulting. So this is it. Thank you very much. I feel that now that we started from specific areas and we are doing this at this moment, it seems that it's viable and it's operational. The people need somebody to trust and to come around him to create a consensus, let's say, institution to find a solution to their problem. Mayors and community council play a key role. If they don't like this idea, it will not proceed. We start from them, they give us their consensus, and then we proceed with the rest of the stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. I will give the floor to our next speaker. So our next speaker is Cristina Domingo Marimon from MONALISA project. Cristina is an environmental remote sensing researcher at CREAF with focus on drought monitoring, ecosystem restoration, earth observation, and the analysis of environmental change using remote sensing and technologies. So, Cristina, the floor is yours.
Thanks. You see my screen right now?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so as Maya introduced, we are part of MONALISA project, and as you may know, MONALISA is sorry, I just closed my screen. MONALISA is a project that aims to demonstrate the social acceptability, economic viability, and environmental effectiveness of innovative practices that should prevent desertification and also mitigate or improve the land degradation processes. So we are applying this to use case studies that try to implement these solutions. We have these case studies located along the Mediterranean basin. As you know, it's an area that is especially affected and vulnerable to desertification. That's why the case studies were located in these areas. And these areas are also representative of desertification, and they also present a strategic gradient of socio-ecological conditions in the Mediterranean drylands. We are testing 5 groups of solutions: innovative grazing systems, organic fertilizers and amendments, conservation agriculture, natural ecosystems and ecosystem restorations, and water-related solutions. In the case of innovative grazing systems, we try to use GPS collars to monitor animal behavior and especially estimate the utilization rates of these animals on the land through heat maps that show where the livestock spends the most time, segmented by resting, by grazing, or by rumination areas. And then this data allows the farmer and us, the researchers, to identify areas affected by soil erosion and compactation. Then the displays also provides some functionalities related to geofencing, for which virtual perimeters are defined, and then alerts are triggered when an animal moves outside them. We are testing 2 different systems, one with a virtual fencing and the other without, with one that includes an electric pulse and the other without it. And Together with remote sensing data, the aim is to model and to design grazing strategies to improve the rotational grazing, co-designed together with farmers and their needs. Then we have a group of solutions that it's based on organic fertilizers and amendments that has been tested also into different sites. In the first site, we inoculate Trichoderma microbial products to stimulate soil biological activity and to improve plant establishment, nutrient cycling, and possible drought resistance. And we are also evaluating the impact of different green cover managements on soil composition or the quality of the soil composition. This is done in Andalusia, in the south of Spain, at Los Pedroches. We are evaluating different types of amendments in the management of the green covers through conventional management, management with horses, with sheep, and then so management in a biodynamic way. And then we have also installed temperature and humidity sensors to monitor these two variables continuously in these fields. And then we compare the treatments. So this is also solution that it has been cross-fertilized a little bit to Berquidamonte because they also have similar landscapes. So one of the aims of the project is also to learn from one from the other. First preliminary results on this olive tree green cover management in soil impact shows that even though one might think that biodynamic is always the best, in this case biodynamic soils are indeed biologically more active because they present more oxidizable organic carbon, but horse management seems to have a better impact in the structure of the soil because it has more resistant organic carbon. This is also explained by the fact that biodynamic presents high calcium levels that compensates a little bit the lack of this resistant organic carbon, and horses present more magnesium, more phosphorus also, and more total nitrogen, that indicating this potential overgrazing or this incorporation of this manure organic matter of the residues of the horses that in the case of the biodynamic it's not present. These results are shared with the stakeholders to mobilize this knowledge, and then we are working together to suggest management changes. Regarding the conservation agriculture, what we do is to try to increase the use of conservative practices such as minimum soil disturbance practices, permanent soil cover with cover crops, and species diversification. At Asterusha, that is located in Crete, we are testing the plowing along contour lines to reduce this erosion, and then also planting legumes-based cover crops. And then in Alta Murgia, the solution implemented is focused on increasing the minimum tillage management, also together with restoration showing. Natural and agroecosystem restorations consist in diverse solutions. One is the restoration of stone walls, like the ones that have been abandoned here in Crete, to reduce soil erosion and improve slope stabilization and water retention, while we try also to preserve traditional landscape features that are key for the landscape and for the soil. And then another solution that we are testing is planting directly seeds, that in the case of Los Pedroches in Andalusia, we are testing a more singular approach based on new prototypes of recipients that have been developed by one of the stakeholders that is collaborating, the local cooperative co-op, that are made of clay. And then these increase the seedling survival ratio for regenerating the old as ecosystem. We are testing these clay displays and also the traditional cocoon ones made of cartoon that provide water to the seedlings for the first year or for the first critical summers of the seedlings, and then increase the survival ratio of the oaks. We also put some fences because of the grazing, so that the the plant has more probability of survival. Then we have two different water-related solutions in Medellin and in Beit Dajan, in Tunisia and Palestine, that are more technical. At Medellin, efficiency, what we try to do is to evaluate the efficiency of different harvesting systems. 5 pilot sites have been selected inside this case study. 2 are research walls that are managed with research chambers that are filled with different materials, that are different sizes of rocks or stones or grave or even leaves that allow to increase the infiltration when the water runs out in these periods of high rains. And then this water goes into the deep aquifers and can be then reused and contribute to the management of the aquifer research, and then also improves the groundwater availability. Then we have the GESOR systems that are these, like, let's say, terraces, this rain-fed agriculture, and in one case we are combining this with also smart irrigation to try to also increase the availability of water along the year to these small patches of crops. And finally, we have the semicircular bands, contour lines, and check dams designed to capture and store runoff during rainfall events. This is implemented together with also reseedling and indigenous pastoral species. And in Palestine, we have the testing in wastewater irrigation management in agriculture. There are a couple of plants that are using wastewater to clean it and to use it as irrigation water. And then we are trying to strengthen the safe and the sustainability of use of these treated wastewater for agricultural irrigation to combat the desertification in these areas, and also to allow to have this for the societies that are there. Through technical improvements, and then also increase the stakeholder engagement and applied it in the communities of Beit Dajan and Tayasir. Around 50 farmers have been benefit from this system and from irrigation, and we are trying also to extend the canalization, the lines that we are irrigating. All this implementation of innovative activities for connecting and building capacity of scientists, land managers, and owners, and other stakeholders, then will enable us also to scale out the project's solutions and results. But at this stage, we are still facing the first part of the evaluation. So news next year, maybe we will be able to explain the results.
Thank you, Cristina, for this insightful presentation. We'll go to our next speaker, which is Antoine Kodat from LandShift project. Antoine is a bioeconomy strategic lead at Metabolic, where he works on sustainability transition, circular ecosystems, and innovative approaches to environmental challenges through collaboration between business, public institution, and civil society. Antoine, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll share my screen now. Great, thank you for having me and for the opportunity to present LandShift. I'm going to quickly provide an overview on LandShift project, a little bit about nature-based solution and how they relate to soil restoration and desertification, and then I will talk about at greater depths on the LandShift nature-based solution library. So the LandShift project is a Horizon project, like all of those today presented. It's running for 3 years. We just reached the halfway point a couple months ago. We have 26 partners, And in essence, this project provides tools, knowledge, and apply them to real-world pilots across Europe to design and apply innovative practices for sustainable land use. And its overall goal is to really contribute to carbon saving, carbon farming, and sequestration of carbon in the land. Here we go. The four main pillars of LandShift are: one is heavily focused on developing data layers, the data cubes, and living Earth infrastructure to provide enough environmental and socioeconomic data for the pilots to understand how their territory is currently evolving towards 2050 with the advance of climate change impacts and different social demographic trends. We were aiming as well to solve the challenge, the upcoming challenge on land use, to provide a promising nature-based solution to make their land use more sustainable over time, and to really assess a trade-off with different nature-based solution and different land use management practices, so that they can choose what are the positive and negative impact that they can manage in their transition towards sustainable land use. All of these activities are enshrined into community-led roadmaps that really puts into places all the insights and tools and a nature-based solution identified into a roadmap across those pilots. You can see here the 5 pilots. They're really spread out in Europe. So we have France, Occitanie, the region of Occitanie, Mazowiecki in Poland, the region of Kiev in Ukraine, Thrace, Macedonia in Greece, and Basilicata. And all of those pilots are experiencing various levels of soil degradation for different reasons, of course. And I would say Macedonia, Thrace, and Basilicata show the most impact of desertification on their soil and on their land. Within LandShift, of course, the nature-based solution is seen as a key, let's say, tool to transform the land use system of those pilots. And we use the IUCN definition of nature-based solution. So nature-based solution are defined as action that protect, that sustainably manage, and that restore natural modified ecosystem. And they do that by addressing societal challenge effectively, and they adapt to those challenges over time. But they also provide, at the same time, human well-being and biodiversity benefits. So those are not usually single action or isolated action. They're a suite of action that really at the landscape level can provide those benefits. Sorry, my slides are a bit slow. What's important to know about nature-based solution for sustainable land use is that they have multiple climate and ecosystem benefits. Usually a nature-based solution is not going to solve one, but multiple. That's actually the strength of that type of actions. And they tend to provide also economic benefit and different new options for business viability for landowner, farmers, foresters, and so on and so forth. And they need to be really embedded within socio-ecological system to be successful. That's what we've been seeing in LandShift, but in all, of course, other projects. As I said, in LandShift, we are helping the living spaces that have soil degradation problem to identify nature-based solutions. So those are some of the example of nature-based solutions we're currently exploring with the local stakeholders through community lab and policy lab to implement in their territory and then put a roadmap so that those can be scaled to have very positive impact on soil. So agroforestry, repair and buffer, wetland restoration projects, cover crops in the agricultural system, regenerative agriculture as well, afforestation and reforestation. Those are all nature-based solutions that we are in the process of discussing, and we will probably use a combination of them to really address their soil health challenges and their desertification challenges. As a combination, all of those nature-based solutions really help reduce erosion, which is one of the main drivers of soil degradation in Europe, increase soil organic carbon that has been declining as well in those regions that we're working with, improve water retention, and overall reduce the risk of desertification in these living spaces. The way we go about deploying those nature-based solutions in LandShift is also guided by the New European Bauhaus principles. The New European Bauhaus is an EU initiative launched a few years ago that are connecting the Green Deal with everyday living environment, and it has 3 pillars to its framework. Let's say sustainability, which is really about resiliency, regenerative design. Inclusion, which is about having the accessibility to every type of people can access those projects, and it's also put a big focus on participatory community-led projects, and beauty, which relies on something that is aesthetically pleasing and meaningful to the local communities. One thing though about the European Bauhaus is that it was designed specifically for the built environment originally. It's an architectural movement, the Bauhaus movement, and therefore it's not readily, let's say, applicable to nature-based solution in rural landscape. So within LandShift, what we're doing at the moment, and we'll release the compass soon, is we're redeveloping the European Bauhaus compass, which has all those criteria and thresholds and pillars to go beyond the built environment. What does it mean to apply it to rural landscape? So that's what the question that we're answering at the moment in our team, to develop indicators of sustainability, inclusion, and beauty to rural landscape, and to support the selection and the design of high quality nature-based solution within the living space of LandShift. So this is ongoing progress, but it is really a guiding light for us when it comes down to selecting nature-based solution that will address desertification challenges and soil degradation challenges. The European Bauhaus is one of those main compasses that help us do that as well. One of the leading tools for us to support the living space region in selecting promising nature-based solution and guiding them through the process of building those roadmaps for sustainable land use is the LandShift nature-based solution library. And this is what I'm going to talk about for the remaining of the presentation. The library is a live library. It's already on live. You will see the first version that was released in February of this year, and the new version will be released in December, January of 2027, and the final version will be released at the end of LandShift project in October 2027. So the nature-based solution library is gather almost 60 case study at the moment of nature-based solution. They're large-scale implementation of nature-based solution. They're proven, they have been implemented, they have a track record, and they have been monitored. So they're not only small-scale, they are not proof of concept, they're really implemented project. And the reason for that is we wanted to provide examples that were fully mature to the living spaces to really see the life cycle of those type of projects and how they came about, how they were financed, what were the challenges that they addressed, what type of partner were involved, and how successful they were. So we covered a good part of Europe, and we'll cover more of Europe as the project develops in the future. This library is an interesting tool for local and regional authorities when they're initiating their thought process about what type of nature-based solution and land use system, the transition system they can think of for their territory and for the type of challenges they're facing, whether it's soil degradation, desertification, or floods or forest fire. Land use planning, of course, it's an interesting tool. Practitioner can use this tool to find case studies that are relevant to their research. And of course, public and private land use also can be inspired by the case study that they see in this library. The main aspect to engage with the library is to understand, to go through the library through different sets of filters, depending on the interest of the user. So first, you can filter on the different type of ecosystem that are more relevant to your context, whether it's forest, wetland, freshwater bodies, or agricultural system. You can also filter on different land use challenges that you're facing. So, for example, today we're talking about soil degradation, land degradation, and so on. Or you might be already interested in some certain specific nature-based solution approaches that are already relevant to your context. So those filters, can be used also together to really refine your research and find really cases that are the most adapted and the most relevant to your local context. So that's an important part of how to interact with the library today. Importantly as well, geographical information is important as well. So you can all do this filtration process while looking at a map to see if there are local case studies that are not that far from your region. And that helps as well to have a way to understand nature-based solution deployment across Europe and the density of project in certain areas as well, and why certain countries have maybe more nature-based solution applied to them at large scale. As I said, there is about 60 case studies at the moment.
I'm sorry, Antoine, just to give you please a minute to find it.
I'm wrapping up now. The case studies have, they combine extensive information. They show the introduction, they show the highlight, the overall timeline, they detail the intervention at a very detailed level and highlight the key stakeholder and the type of environmental and financial metric. Those are all useful information for practitioners to develop their own nature-based solution project at their scale. So that's about the case studies. The library has also guides for the deployment of policy that favor nature-based solution, and then in the future we have more guides that support those type of projects and within the context of LandShift. Nature-based solutions are very much a complex challenges that require responses that are systemic, and nature-based solutions are really well adapted to that because they can have multiple benefit at once that restore soil while improving water management, while strengthening local climate resilience. So it's important to have those type of tools, like the tools that LandShift developed, to identify, assess, and adapt nature-based solution to local context. And this library is one of those tools that help initiate that journey toward sustainable land use systems. Thank you. I will share the library link.
I shared the link with the people in the chat already. You can access the library and look it around. I have one question for you, but that will be after all the presentations, and we'll see if there is questions afterwards. Thank you for this insight. And I'll go to our next speaker, which is coming from Nemesis. Ioannis Varvaris is representing our project, Project Nemesis. Ioannis is a deputy research coordinator at the ERATHONE, I hope I said it correctly, Center of Excellence. His expertise is hydrology, earth observation, environmental monitoring, and soil-water interactions, with a strong focus on soil health and restoration. So, Ioannis, you have 10 minutes, and the floor is yours.
Okay, I hope you can see my screen. So
Yes.
thank you very much for the invitation to the AgroTech Cluster Hub and the webinar, particularly for today that's about the Desertification Day. So first of all, as well, to thank you as well, Maya, for all the effort and coordination of this webinar. So regarding my presentation is mainly about the Nemesis-Soil Health Living Labs for combating desertification across the Mediterranean. Representing the Nemesis project and being as well from another Center of Excellence. So generally, before starting, is something about that maybe it sounds obvious, but it's often underestimated. So in generally, particularly as we are living labs, so we are considering as most of the project is that the soil is not just a growing medium, it's a living ecosystem that can support the plant growth, regulates the water, stores carbon, and hosts biodiversity. So healthy soil infiltrates rainfall, it maintains the stable structure, and as well, yet is 60 to 70% of European soils are currently under the threat of sustainable management practices. So that means that it's not just likely a future risk, it's happening now. And particularly in 2025, recognizing this urgency, the Council for European Parliament reached this agreement about the Directive on Soil Monitoring and Resilience. And that was likely a landmark moment that gives the Nemesis project, as well as other European soil health living labs and soil projects, a window of opportunity. So what is the challenge specifically, and why it does responding to the requirement of living labs is that the desertification across the Mediterranean is a systemic and place-based crisis. So regarding that, the soil loss, the water scarcity, they interact differently in every territory. So what is happening in the Spanish, for example, pastures or Murcia is not the same as what is happening in Tunisian agricultural soil. So there is not a single fix that works everywhere, and that's why that the top-down policy and science alone have not so far achieved the impact that we would like to have seen about the reverse land degradation on the ground. Something else that so that's why we are needing these real-life environments that are operating as the living labs, where the solutions are built and being co-created and tested within the experimental sites under the local soil and climate conditions, so it's more place-based approach. They are multi-actor by design, where farmers, scientists, policymakers act as one community, and they are actually the tools that makes the local knowledge and turns it into core solutions that are being ready to transfer across the Mediterranean region. So that's why we have now the Nemesis Consortium. We are consisted of 37 partners. So we are a large, let's say, project. And here you can see that our aim is, and we have a clear vision and mission, is to establish an autonomous community of place-based living labs that will integrate affordable, flexible, scalable innovation to combat desertification and enhance the soil health across the Mediterranean region. But if we want to make it a bit more concrete, is the way that Nemesis workflow is 5 steps. So we have the first one is to listen. So meaning that we need to listen to the local needs, to the farmer experience, to citizen concerns. Then we need to measure, meaning that we need to measure the specified soil health descriptors about the field data and integrating as well the earth observation. Then we want as well to integrate the aspect of simulating using digital twin and scenario testing to explore what-if questions before anything is deployed across the living labs. And then we also test, meaning that we have the co-created solutions in the experimental sites with alongside the stakeholders. And finally, the one, if I may say, the most important is to share, meaning that through the training, the engagement, through the engagement of schools, we need to have this wider uptake. So it's not just a single, let's say, linear pipeline, but it's a continuous loop that we need to integrate across each of the living lab. Regarding the principles, in the Nemesis project, we have integrated the aspect of the anti-nest model. So here you can see a number of different principles that are being across all of our living labs. Most importantly, we need to have the co-creation, good governance, and self-organization, inclusivity, open innovation. And then we have established the 5 living labs. So we have in Spain, Tunisia, across border in Tunisia, Algeria, Italy, France, and Cyprus. And each of these living labs is a floor in the same foundation, meaning that we need to, our main objective is about combating desertification and reversing soil health degradation. And as the main core is about the co-creation and having the users at the heart of these living labs. So here you can see about the Nemesis living labs. So we have the Cyprus that is particularly the thematic of soil water. On France, about on soil biodiversity. In Italy, it's about soil crop. In Spain, it's about soil livestock. And finally, cross-border Tunisia, Algeria is about soil management practices. All of them, the main objective is about reducing desertification, while there are additional sub-objectives, satellite objectives, as we call them, across different experimental sites based on the needs and the challenges that already have been identified with the stakeholders. Different soil health challenges are being monitored. So we have about the reduced water retention, excess nutrients, acidification, and soil biodiversity loss. But again, the salinization, but the main aspect is about combating desertification. I will not go very much in detail. So here the main aspect is to establish 5 autonomous living labs and having the stakeholder engagement through the multi-actor approach. Then we also have the Nemesis data space that's about the Mediterranean data cube with accommodated with the living earth and the digital twin and crowdsourcing tools. We need to have a harmonized soil health monitoring framework and that will be aligned with the European Soil Observatory. And then having first established the baselines for each of the 60 experimental sites, we will have the co-decision with the stakeholders about the solutions that will be tested across experimental sites. And then we'll proceed to monitoring system and continuous feedback loops, linking monitoring, our data cube, the stakeholder insights, and finally proceeding to having our experimental sites and with the most exemplary performance to become lighthouses. So regarding the living labs, if I just have time, is a living lab ecosystem across each of them. So in our case, it's in Cyprus from our Center of Excellence, our ministry, Agricultural Research Institute, the Cyprus University of Technology, Spectrum, and the Cyprus Institute, each of them with a specific role and specific expertise. Main objectives about reducing land degradation to desertification, but as mentioned before, there are additional satellite objectives, and then with specific soil health challenges and soil health descriptors to monitor. Then I will just go through about the living lab question for Francis from INRAE and colleagues from CIRAD Agro Vallis, from Italy, Politecnico di Milano, and then finally as well from the cross-border in Tunisia is from our colleagues from INNAT with similar objectives and sub-objectives. And finally from Spain is from University of Murcia. So just to closing is about that the Nemesis is not just like a scientific project. It's, we have 6 experimental sites, citizens and schools are well central to this point. And we also have the open call that there will be applications for additional experimental sites. And finally, the most important innovation in the Nemesis is about the governance. So we are trying to have the aspect of running this project, but building co-governance systems and about to co-govern the solutions and to be transitioned from a living lab as research tool and innovation tool to a living lab as a co-governance infrastructure for soil restoration. Thank you very much. And hopefully you can stay connected with us.
Thank you, Yanis. I shared a link to your open calls in the chat. So if somebody is interested, you can check it out. Our next speaker is coming for Project AfroGrow, Zampella Pitaki. Zampella is a soil scientist specializing in soil spectroscopy and innovative methods for soil assessment. Zampella, the floor is yours.
Thank you, dear Maya. Let me.
We can see your screen. You can proceed.
So, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to the AgroTechHub cluster for the opportunity to present here today. As Maya said, I'm Zampella Pitaki from Landscape Alliance for ECRAF, and what I want to share with you isn't just a project. It's a AfroGrow answer to a question every agroforestry practitioner eventually asks. How do you turn good intentions into data-driven, lasting land restoration? I will show you the system AfroGrow has built to answer that, and then I will take you to one place where you can see it actually working. The project is built by 25 partners, 9 European and 6 African countries, so one coalition, one purpose. This is what AfroGrow set out to strengthen a genuine EU-AU partnership, research institutes, universities, and field organizations across 2 continents working together as equals. Every dot on this map represents a partner who is helping build that partnership, not just deliver a project. At the heart of AfroGrow is one idea, the Living Lab, an open innovation ecosystem in real landscapes where communities and researchers co-create solutions side by side, rather than research happening at communities from a distance. But why agroforestry specifically? Because when you integrate trees, crops, and livestock into one system, you get something single-purpose farming never could. Climate regulation, carbon sequestration, biodiversity, better soil and water filtering, and direct resources like food, fuel wood, and medicine, all from the same plot of land. That's why AfroGrow speaks directly to multiple United Nations Sustainable Development Goals at once: land management, food security, climate resilience, and community-driven innovation, together rather than traded off against each other. Our vision is a resilient agroforestry-based Africa, environmentally friendly, circular, and equitable, empowered by digital tools and knowledge-sharing networks. Our mission turns that into something concrete: co-creating sustainably inclusive agroforestry ecosystem across Africa through 6 living labs and gender-responsive strategies, while safeguarding food security, climate adaptation and mitigation, and human well-being. And running through all of it, one commitment that matters as much as the science: strengthening EU partnership so that conservation and socioeconomic progress reinforce each other instead of competing. That's the foundation AfroGrow is building on. Strip away the detail, and AfroGrow's objectives come down to 3 commitments: generate real data on what agroforestry delivers for climate, biodiversity, and food security; strengthen how agroforestry systems are managed on the ground, including for women and youth; and build an innovation ecosystem strong enough that farmers actually adopt what we prove works. AfroGrow does this, as I said before, in 6 living labs: Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Botswana, Zambia, Ethiopia, Kenya. 1 root system, 6 different agroforestry contexts, from cocoa to NZ to maize. All 6 matter equally. But today, I want to take just one of them and show you in detail what data-driven land restoration actually looks like on the ground: AfroGrow's living lab in Makueni, Kenya. Here's the AfroGrow methodology that runs underneath every single living lab. 7 steps, 1 repeatable circle. Build databases to select the right plants and animals. Assess impact. Engage stakeholders and map their agroforestry profile. Build digital tools, including a crowdsourcing app I will show you later. Run demonstration sites as agroforestry lighthouses. Train people and feed it all into the Pan-Africa Agroforestry Hub. This is what makes AfroGrow scalable. And AfroGrow monitors all of it: soil, water, biodiversity, pests, microclimate, even human and animal health, because that's what data-driven has to mean in practice, right? Soil is where AfroGrow's data backbone lives, and it starts with the land degradation surveillance framework. We call it LDSF, is designed by ICRAF scientists to read soil health systematically, fast, and affordably using innovative sampling and spectroscopy. And the Landscape Alliance, C4ICRAF in action, we are the gold standard lab for FAO's Global Soil Spectroscopy Network. Over 20,000 samples analyzed every year, over 200,000 already physically archived. This is the credibility underneath every map and every recommendation. One framework deployed as a dense network of sites, each covering 100 square kilometers across radically different landscapes. Currently, we have over 300 sampling sites across the globe. And in scales, 30 countries, 15,000 reference samples, a deep learning model achieving over 0.9 R-square, predicting on validation, not on calibration: soil carbon, nitrogen, pH, and texture. That turns into something AfroGrow can hand directly to a farmer or a policymaker: a map of what will actually grow and where. For the digital side, AfroGrow isn't starting from zero. We are using the Greening Africa app, a tool already developed by ICRAF, to put that science directly into farmers' hands, tracking how many farmers we have reached, how many hectares, and genuinely under restoration, not just self-reported. It works offline, it's free, and it shares data with stakeholders in near real time. And on the back end, that some data flows straight into a reporting system AfroGrow partners and any other donors and decision makers can actually act on. So let's go there. Makueni, Kenya, AfroGrow's living lab and the example I choose out of our 6. Communities here have fought soil degradation and erratic rainfall for years, not abstract problems, but declining harvest, water scarcity, shrinking incomes. So AfroGrow didn't arrive with a plan. We asked the community directly, why do you want a living lab here? Their answers become our agenda. Restore soil health, test and scale agroforestry, empower women and youth, strengthen food and water security, and learn together. So it started with soil, but it's really about communities. Makueni County sits in semi-arid southeastern Kenya, a place defined by drought pressure, but also by deep local knowledge of dryland farming. AfroGrow's focus here, restoring soil through regenerative agroforestry, using water more efficiently, building resilience for women and youth, and sharing what we learn well beyond Makueni's borders. Local roots, wide impact, and a template AfroGrow can carry to the other 5 living labs. Here's AfroGrow Living Lab model in motion. Co-identifying priorities with farmer, testing real interventions like tree crop integration, monitoring with community itself, using low-cost participatory tools, and feeding results back into the next cycle. It's people-centered, evidence-driven, trust-based, and it treats failure as a part of innovation, not something to hide. As the community itself put it, we test, we learn, we grow. So this is 8 separate soil indicators mapped across Makueni with high accuracy. Organic carbon, water content, pH, nitrogen, drainage, and more. Each one telling a different part of the story. And what jumps out immediately when you see these maps is how much variation there is, often within like a few kilometers. That's the whole argument for AfroGrow's approach in one image. And blanket recommendation for Makueni will fail half the farmers in it. But a map like this let us tailor agroforestry choices to what the soil, plot by plot, actually needs. None of this matters if it disappears the day project funding ends, right? So AfroGrow builds every living lab on a full business model canvas, not just good intentions. It maps stakeholders, value created, cost, and critically, revenue beyond the project, public funding, carbon mechanism, value chain integration, built on work from prep soil in the European network of living lab and all, with AfroGrow adding its own components, gender and youth equity, governance and land tenure, a pathway to scale. This is how a living lab outlives its funding. Pull back, and here's the full arc, co-created agroforestry solutions, genuine EU-AU partnerships, data-driven tools, sustainable business models. That enables farmers and SMEs to adopt at scale new income streams and policy grounded in real evidence. And it builds climate resilience and biodiversity restoration, which matters every day, but feels especially fitting to say today, June 17th, is the World Day to combat desertification and drought. AfroGrow's Living Lab are a direct, on-the-ground answer to exactly that challenge, turning degraded land back into productive, resilient landscapes. And it all comes back to where I started. One soil, one sample, one community, one honest question. Why do we want this? Thank you so much again to AgroTechHub for hosting AfroGrow today. If you want to stay tuned, scan the QR code. Thank you.
Thank you, Zampella, for your presentation. And we proceed now to our last presentation of this first session, to Giancarlo Ranella from EARTHONE project. Giancarlo is a professor of agricultural chemistry at the University of Padua. His research focuses on soil fertility, sustainable soil management, ecosystem services, and soil restoration. So Giancarlo, please, you can take the floor.
Thanks very much, Maya, for your introduction, and thanks also all the organizers for the invitation. I hope you can see my presentation, even if I know Yeah,
We can see it
I
just
hope it works.
not in presentation mode. It's still in notes.
Yeah, I don't know why. Sorry. Again, like before.
Yeah, just go to impostazione and...
Yeah, but it's not on my screen. That's the problem.
Okay.
I don't know why. I cannot change the settings. Sorry about that. Again, like before.
If you go up in the menu here, impostazione, di visualizzazione,
Yeah.
on the top.
Yes, but I don't have it on my screen. That's the problem.
He doesn't see it. Okay, do you want us to share your presentation?
Yeah.
It's PDF, but okay.
Maybe I can try again. Sorry.
Try again. We have time. We
Okay,
don't have too many questions in the chat, so we have time a little bit. I know I have one.
No way. Sorry about that. I don't know why. I try again. Sorry. Can you see it?
Okay, try now to the presentation.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks once again for introduction and the invitation to show you some of the aspects of the EARTHONE project, which was funded by the European Union, and it started on January 2025. So we are in the 18-month period of the project. This project was as a consortium of 17 partners, and is coordinated by the Technical University of Madrid. And basically, this project has a mission, which is to enhance the natural compartment of Earth that can act as a greenhouse gas sinks. And the idea is to understand what are the main drivers, not only the environmental drivers that are mostly known, but also include some socioeconomic, demographic, and also other aspects which are not normally included in the greenhouse gas modeling and management. What is, let's say, the core mission of the EARTHONE is to provide the new knowledge to, let's say, prepare adaptation measures for Europe, and especially for the agricultural systems to the climate change. I mean, in a nutshell, the EARTHONE project will model the interactions between the land use change and the climate change. In some cases, we know that land use change can, let's say, further push the climate change, can, positively interact with the climate change. In other cases, we know that there is land use changes that can mitigate the climate change. The EARTHONE project will, base this ambition to, let's say, by creating a multisensory ecosystem based on the use of advanced methodologies and tools, and also based on the evaluation of the, let's say, starting from the evaluation of the local problem, is also setting some living lab activities. This aiming at, let's say, having a global impact, at least at the European level. Well, okay, you can find more information by visiting the project website. I would just illustrate you let's say, the core system based in EARTHONE. I mean, this is a kind of information factory which collects data from the European repositories, the main repositories. You see at least Copernicus and MODIS. And then it integrates data coming from the 6 pilot sites equipped with these environmental sensor tools, which are climate sensors, but also soil sensors, and also vegetation systems, monitoring systems, like, for example, phenocams, and all this information will be integrated into new models, which will be made available, of course, to the European Commission, but also to end users. EARTHONE has 9 strategic objectives. Today, I just focus on the specific objective 6, which is one example of interaction between land use change and climate change. And this specific objective will directly connect to the 6 pilot sites that we have distributed in the south of Europe. You see in Spain, Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, North Macedonia, and Greece. And you can easily recognize that this is one of the most impacted European belts, from the climate change. And you see on the right-hand side of the slide, you see the different solutions that will be evaluated in terms of land use and correlated with climate change. And you see in the 3 cases where we will evaluate the agroforestry as one of the solutions, of course, different types of agroforestry in Spain, in Italy, and in Greece. And you also, we will also evaluate the effect of afforestation or intensive agriculture and wetlands in Macedonia, Slovenia, and Croatia. And today I will present you the first results that we got from the Italian pilot. This is an agroforestry setting. It is located in the experimental farm managed by Veneto Agricoltura, one of the project partners. And it is located in the south of the Veneto region. And the setting of this agroforestry farm, you see, is an LI crop. It is actually distributed in 2 sites that are 1 kilometer away from each other. You see in different colors in the in the low left part of the slide, the setting at the Sasse farm. It is, you see here in this small plot, there is a polycyclic poplar plantation with different varieties. Here you have the typical LI crop with the poplar rows, let's say connected with agricultural land. And yes, you see on the top right side of the slide, you see the same setting in the Rame farm, which is only 1 kilometer away from the previous site, which has more or less the same setting. You see here on the bottom right of the slide, you see the typical setting with poplar rows spaced about 40 meters each other, and let's say the interrow managed with the typical cereal soybean rotation crop system. What we have observed so far after 18 months of studies, we have measured some key physical, chemical, biochemical parameters of soil health, or typical indicators of soil health. And what we have observed after about 20 years of agroforestry practice with this kind of setting, here what you can observe is that there is, just by comparing only the conventional and agroforestry plots, these were highlighted before, I don't know why now they're the same color, but sorry for that. I mean, what we have observed, for example, in the 2 areas, it is a slight increase in the organic carbon. In the topsoil, it is 0.30 centimeters. So in 20 years, we got a non-significant increase of organic carbon in the soil, which stays still at very low levels. Although in some areas, what we have observed is an increase of let's say, secondary and tertiary nutrients like phosphorus and potassium, for example, but not in both areas. For example, in the Rami area, the other farm that we are evaluating, there was the increase of organic carbon was significant, although it was still, maybe because it was starting from a much lower level, but the increase of different nutrients like phosphorus, calcium, potassium, and so on, it was only significant in some cases. It really was case dependent. So the first conclusion that we have from this observation is that agroforestry can be a solution for mitigating climate change. I mean, activate carbon sink and the greenhouse gas sink into agricultural land. What we have observed from for example, from the living labs is that there will be a lack of scalability. I mean, there is not high, let's say, there is no broader acceptance by the farmer community. And I will show you in a few minutes for one example. And the reason why there is a potential lack of scalability is that there is a relatively low productivity, lower productivity of agroforestry systems compared to conventional systems. Why we came to this conclusion? It's because within EARTHONE, we have a kind of a secondary ambition, which is to evaluate possible replication of the agroforestry systems that we are studying within the project on independent sites, so not non-experimental sites, but at the commercial level. Unfortunately, the Veneto region is a land of agroforestry for some reason, and we found a very interesting replication case study, 50 kilometers west of our pilot. Sorry, I touched something. You see here, we have this, the EARTHONE pilot, which is located in south of Rovigo, and 50 kilometers west, we have this potential replication site. This potential replication site is an agroforestry farm. It is a commercial farm, which is run on 27 hectares. It has a pretty similar asset as compared to our pilot, because it has a LI cropping setting, and also polycyclic plantation blocks at the north and south part of the farm. So we can really test, I mean, we can really measure the same parameters in a similar setting, in a site which is more or less in the same homogeneous climatic area. What we have observed by analyzing this farm, again, is that the main indicators of soil health, like, for example, organic carbon, sorry, maybe it's a little small. Oh, maybe it's not in presentation mode, sorry. Oh, okay.
It's not in presentation mode, but I didn't want to hassle you.
But basically, these results tell us that, again, accumulation of organic carbon after 20 years of agroforestry management is very limited. And what we observed was that the nitrogen, for example, was a limiting factor that could probably slow down the carbon accumulation into the agroforestry plots as compared to the conventional agriculture that we have all around this commercial farm. But by using remote sensing models, it was observed that this farm, which is also included in a European project, has a high water cycle efficiency. It means that the water efficiency, water infiltration retention by this agroforestry system is nearly 100% efficient as compared to conventional agriculture all around. The estimation of the NDVI indexes also indicates a trend of accumulation of carbon into the system, not just into the soil, but in the whole agroforestry system as compared to conventional agriculture. And also, they also estimated. Yes, I finished.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
Yes, I just last slide. And this agroforestry system also accumulates relatively higher carbon stocks as compared to the conventional agriculture. But closing, I cannot just add one line to the previous conclusions, is that agroforestry confirms the tendency to revert the climate change, but it does it slowly, and it needs support by appropriate policy. And I thank you very much for attention, and sorry for technical problems.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you for your presentation. Thank everybody for their presentations, and we will give the floor for questions. We have one question in the chat. It's for Cristina Domingo for MONALISA project. How are the municipal wastewater of Beta Shan case study treated for agricultural use? That's for Cristina.
Let's see if I understand the question. They want to know how the treatment is done in the plant.
Yes, what type of treatment is how is treated? How is the wastewater treated and then reused for agriculture? I know that Cristina is not our expert for this case study and for this particular process, but we can reach out to our colleagues from Palestine. And as we said, the questions and the answers will also be compiled in one document and sent out to all the participants that registered to this event. So I would not try to answer this myself also. So if that's okay, Emilio, we will send out the question to you when we receive it from our Palestine partners. And then Sadia, I'm sorry. How can environmental projects balance ecological goals with social equity, ensuring that vulnerable communities benefit directly from restoration and sustainability initiatives? I think this question is connected to our discussion. Ioannis, do you agree?
Yes, I think it's already, but if someone correct, but I think will be a matter of the discussion that will be done across the projects. So definitely.
Yeah. I will save this question, Sadia, for the second session. Okay. And then for Antoine, Sadia also has a question. How can environmental project balance? Okay. She repeated the question. So yeah, Sadia, we will connect to this question in the second session. We didn't receive any more, but I have two. I have one very short for Yannis for Nemesis project regarding the open calls, because open calls are very good opportunity for everybody to do something and to get funding for it. I would like to ask that I see that you are asking also for external reviewers. I think this is a good opportunity to confirm that the external reviewers are needed. And I would just wanted to ask, is the opportunity for financing this type of activity, or is it just on the volunteer basis? I didn't check out the...
Thank you very much. No, actually, there will be a compensation for the external evaluators. So actually, we have already opened the call for external evaluators so they can proceed sending their applications. There's already the guidelines regarding this aspect. So mainly it's about having a soil background, or could also make as well to living lab aspect, or about more participatory approach. And there will also be, like as mentioned, the compensation for that, and will be likely two open calls. One is mainly about expanding the experimental sites across the living labs, and the second one is for the integration of low-cost technologies across the living labs. But definitely, thank you as well, Maya. There's already been the link for the open calls. And there could also the email for communicating with their team that it is possible, so they can reply back for any questions on that.
Thank you. Thank you. And Antoine, I have a question regarding the nature-based solutions library. You showed that there is a space for case studies, where case studies that are implementing nature-based solutions are shown. Are they only from LandShift case studies, or there can be integrated case studies from different projects in your library?
Yeah, the library is not only for LandShift, indeed, case studies. They are gathering case studies from ongoing Horizon project, other non-Horizon, let's say, funded project, national projects, regional projects. They are, of course, we had a co-design with all the living spaces to understand their challenges. So from the LandShift perspective, what are the land use challenges of the living spaces, the ecosystem? But of course, we have a nice spread in LandShift, so we have a nice coverage actually of most land use challenges in Europe. So we are looking at all across Europe, but it's with some focus on some countries of LandShift, but it's a broad suite. Yeah.
Okay, so we can contact you if we, let's say, decide MONALISA case studies with the solutions of NBS. We can contact somebody from LandShift to collaborate and to see if we can be visible in that regard, if we decided like that. It's possible. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. If there are no more questions, I would like to close this session.